The courtroom was suffocatingly silent, the air thick with tension that seemed to settle on every shoulder. Rows of people sat still, their eyes fixed on the man at the center of the storm. Sergeant Nathan Carter, a decorated war veteran, sat in his wheelchair, his military uniform perfectly pressed, yet unable to mask the quiet storm raging within him. His medals, each telling a story of bravery, glinted under the sterile fluorescent lights. But Nathan wasn't here for recognition. He was here for Thor. Beside him sat Thor, a striking German shepherd, calm but alert. To most in the room, Thor was merely a military working dog, trained and efficient. But to Nathan, Thor was family. They had shared every moment of terror on the battlefield, every silent, sleepless night after. Now, the very system Nathan had served threatened to tear them apart. The army had decided Thor was to be reassigned, classified as government property, destined for another mission. Nathan's hands gripped the leash tightly, knuckles white. His voice, steady but raw, cut through the quiet. "Your Honor, Thor isn't just a military asset. He's the reason I'm alive. In combat, he pulled me from danger, shielded me from gunfire, and even detected traps before I could see them. But when I came home, broken, lost, Thor was the one who brought me back. Please, don't take him from me." His words lingered, casting a heavy stillness over the room. Faces in the crowd softened. Some dabbed away tears. Others exchanged glances of quiet outrage. Yet the judge remained unreadable, perched high above the room, his gavel resting ominously on the bench. Nathan braced himself for the ruling, his heart pounding. But before the judge could speak, an unexpected sound shattered the silence. Thor, so composed moments ago, suddenly sprang to his feet, his ears pinned back. His deep, sharp bark echoed through the courtroom. Gasps rippled through the crowd as Thor yanked the leash from Nathan's hands and sprinted forward, barking relentlessly at the judge's bench. "Thor!" Nathan's voice cracked, panic flashing in his eyes. But somewhere deep down, Nathan recognized that bark, a bark he had heard too many times on the battlefield. This wasn't defiance. It was a warning. The courtroom stirred. Murmurs swelled. The bailiff instinctively stepped forward, his hand hovering over his holster, unsure of whether to intervene. Nathan struggled to push himself forward. "Wait," he called out, breathless. "He's not acting out. Thor senses something. He only does this when there's danger. You have to listen to him." The judge froze, caught between authority and uncertainty. Thor's barks didn't waver, sharp and deliberate, reverberating off the wooden walls. The audience's unease deepened. What was Thor warning them about? Nathan's chest tightened. This wasn't just about saying goodbye anymore. Something far more dangerous was unfolding, and Thor was determined to stop it. The atmosphere in the courtroom shifted from tense to electric. Thor's barking refused to cease, each sharp bark slicing through the murmurs of the audience. Laura, Nathan's attorney, stood frozen by Nathan's side, her eyes wide with confusion. The judge's gavel struck the bench once, twice. "Order! Order in the court!" the judge barked, though his voice wavered under the growing sense of unease. Yet Thor did not stop. Nathan's heart pounded in his chest. Thor's instincts had never been wrong before, not in combat, and certainly not now. But what could possibly be wrong here, in a courtroom full of people? Then Thor's focus shifted. His barking intensified as he lunged toward a man sitting quietly in the back row. The man, dressed in a dark suit, seemed startled but composed. Too composed. The bailiff moved quickly. "Sir, stay where you are." But the man didn't. He slowly reached into his coat. "No," Nathan's voice thundered. "Thor's warning you. The courtroom erupted. Officers surged forward, tackling the man to the ground as a metallic object clattered to the floor. A concealed weapon. Gasps and screams filled the air. People stumbled over seats, rushing to the exits. The judge stood, pale and speechless. "Secure the area," he barked, his gavel forgotten. Thor growled low, standing protectively in front of Nathan. His hackles were raised, but his body remained poised and controlled. Nathan stared at the man pinned beneath the officers. Laura turned to Nathan, her face ashen. He was going to... Nathan nodded grimly. Thor knew he always knows. The courtroom slowly settled, but the shock lingered. Officers confirmed the weapon. A loaded firearm. The man had slipped through security, his intentions still unclear. But one thing was certain. Without Thor, disaster would have struck. The judge slowly sank back into his seat, rattled. His gaze shifted from the restrained man to Thor, then to Nathan. After a long pause, the judge cleared his throat. "Sergeant Carter, it seems your request deserves reconsideration." Nathan's breath caught in his throat. Hope flickered. The courtroom, moments ago in chaos, now sat in stunned silence. Every eye was on the judge, awaiting his next words. The courtroom slowly emptied, but Nathan's heart continued to pound in his chest. The adrenaline of the moment still coursed through his veins. He stared down at Thor, who now sat calmly at his side, eyes focused and alert. Nathan knew the battle wasn't over. Thor had saved everyone in that room, yet his future still hung in the balance. The judge returned after the recess, his expression unreadable. The gavel struck the bench, calling the court back into session. "Before we proceed, I must acknowledge the actions of Sergeant Carter's service dog, Thor," the judge began, his tone carrying more weight now. Without his intervention, this courtroom could have suffered a tragedy. However, this does not resolve the matter of his reassignment. Nathan's stomach tightened. Thor had done everything he could, yet bureaucracy still loomed large. Laura, Nathan's attorney, stood. "Your Honor, if I may, Thor's actions today demonstrate beyond doubt that he is more than a government asset. His bond with Sergeant Carter is irreplaceable, and his instinct to protect extends beyond the battlefield. If Thor can prevent harm here, imagine the support he provides Sergeant Carter in daily life." The prosecutor shifted uncomfortably. "Your Honor, while we recognize Thor's heroism, military regulations clearly state that service dogs are government property. Reassigning Thor is standard protocol." Nathan leaned forward. His voice, though strained, was firm. "With all due respect, sir, no protocol can measure loyalty. Thor saved lives here today. He isn't just trained for combat, he's trained to protect me, in every situation." The judge paused, weighing every word. The courtroom, though calmer, was still thick with tension. Then, an unexpected voice broke the silence. "I served with Sergeant Carter." A man in uniform stood from the audience, his medals gleaming under the lights. Thor wasn't just a soldier, he was a lifeline. There were nights in the field when the only thing between us and death was Thor. He didn't save one man, he saved all of us. A murmur rippled through the crowd. More soldiers began to stand, each offering silent testimony to Thor's loyalty. Nathan's breath caught in his throat. He hadn't expected this. He thought he was fighting alone. The judge's eyes scanned the room, now filled with unwavering support. He sighed deeply, leaning forward. "Sergeant Carter, this court recognizes the extraordinary bond between you and Thor. It is clear to me now that separating you would not only harm your recovery, but dishonor his service." Nathan's breath trembled. He dared not believe it. The judge's gavel struck once more. I hereby rule that Thor will be permanently retired from military service and entrusted to Sergeant Nathan Carter's full custody. This court is adjourned. For a moment, the room was still, then erupted into quiet applause. Nathan closed his eyes, feeling Thor press closer to his side. Laura leaned in, beaming. "You did it!" Nathan shook his head, placing his hand on Thor's head. "No, he did." Thor, as if understanding the weight of the moment, wagged his tail slowly. The war was over. This was home. The judge's ruling should have been the end, but Nathan knew better. The military was a machine that didn't stop easily, even for heroes like Thor. As the courtroom emptied, Nathan caught sight of a stern figure in a decorated uniform lingering in the back. Colonel Harris, a high-ranking official Nathan recognized from his service days, approached slowly, his face unreadable. "Nathan," the colonel greeted, voice clipped. "Congratulations on the ruling, but don't think this is over." Nathan straightened in his wheelchair, gripping Thor's leash tighter. "With respect, sir," the judge made his decision. Harris's eyes narrowed. "The court ruling protects you here, but military regulations are a different battlefield. Thor's reassignment order still stands until it's officially revoked through command channels. Paperwork, protocol, you know how it works." Nathan's stomach turned. He wasn't free yet. Laura overheard and quickly stepped in. "Colonel, any attempt to reclaim Thor after today would be a violation of this ruling. We'll fight any further action, and I guarantee it won't look good for the Army." The colonel's jaw tightened, but he offered no reply. With a curt nod, he turned and left. His presence lingered like a storm cloud. Days passed, but Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that the battle wasn't truly over. Strange calls began coming to Laura's office. Anonymous tips about Nathan's past. Whispers of misconduct fabricated to undermine his credibility. Laura dismissed them as scare tactics, but Nathan felt the pressure mounting. Thor, sensing Nathan's unease, stayed closer than ever. He paced the house at night, ears perked at every creak of the floor. One evening, Laura called. "Nathan, I think they're watching you. I've seen cars parked outside my office for hours. They aren't letting this go." Nathan stared out his window into the growing dusk. Shadows moved too easily. He knew the Army wasn't above using intimidation to reverse a decision. Refusing to back down, Nathan reached out to veterans organizations, calling on old comrades. Stories of Thor's heroism spread online, capturing the attention of the media. News outlets began covering the story of the Army veteran and his loyal dog caught in bureaucratic warfare. Public support swelled, but the pressure grew too. Nathan noticed subtle changes. His mail tampered with, unmarked cars slowing near his home. Still, he remained calm. He had faced worse. Then, one night, the line was crossed. Nathan awoke to Thor growling lowly at the front door. A faint rustling came from outside. Nathan quietly rolled to the window, peering through the blinds. Two figures in dark clothing moved toward his garage, tools glinting under the moonlight. Thor barked, loud and sharp. The men froze and fled into the night. Nathan called the police, but no suspects were found. Laura was furious. "They're trying to scare you into surrendering Thor. This isn't intimidation anymore. It's harassment." Nathan's grip on the phone tightened. "Then we fight harder." The next morning, Nathan held a press conference outside his home. Cameras flashed as he stood with Thor at his side, veterans flanking him in solidarity. He spoke clearly and firmly. They tried to separate us, but Thor and I have survived worse. We fought for this country, and now we fight for our right to stay together. I will not be intimidated." The media storm intensified. Public pressure mounted on military officials. Petitions with thousands of signatures flooded military channels. Lawmakers began demanding answers. Colonel Harris could no longer hide behind bureaucracy. Days later, Nathan received the official notice. Thor was permanently retired and fully transferred to Nathan's care. The battle was over. Nathan knelt beside Thor, running a hand through his fur. "We did it, boy. No one's taking you away now." Thor leaned into him, tail wagging softly. For the first time in weeks, Nathan felt the weight lift from his shoulders. The war was finally over, and this time they both had won. Weeks after the official ruling, Nathan and Thor finally found the peace they had fought so hard to protect. The house was calm now, no longer shadowed by the anxiety that had once clung to its walls. Morning sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a golden glow on Thor as he lay peacefully on the rug. His steady breathing was the sound of comfort Nathan had longed for. Nathan sat by the window, staring out at the quiet street. A mug of coffee warmed his hands, and for the first time in what felt like forever, his mind was at ease. Thor stirred beside him, stretching lazily before resting his head on Nathan's foot. A knock on the door interrupted the peaceful moment. Nathan opened it to find Laura smiling brightly. In her hands was a framed certificate. "I thought this belonged here," she said, handing it to him. Nathan read it slowly, eyes scanning the words, "In honor of Thor, for exemplary service and unwavering loyalty." Nathan swallowed hard. He earned this more than anyone. Laura nodded. The whole world knows it now. Word of Nathan and Thor's story had spread far and wide. The outpouring of support had been overwhelming. Letters from fellow veterans, families of soldiers, and even schoolchildren who had heard about Thor's bravery. A local park had even dedicated a statue in Thor's honor, capturing him mid-stance, forever watchful and loyal. Later that afternoon, Nathan and Thor visited the park. The statue stood tall, surrounded by flowers and small flags. Nathan traced the engraved words at the base: "A soldier's best friend, a nation's protector." Thor sniffed the ground curiously before sitting at Nathan's side, looking up at the statue. Nathan smiled, resting a hand on Thor's head. "You're more than a symbol, boy. You're family." Children played nearby, and one cautiously approached. "Mister, is that the dog from the news?" Nathan chuckled. "Yeah, that's Thor." The child's eyes lit up. "He's a hero." Nathan smiled as Thor wagged his tail. "Yeah, he is." As the sun dipped below the horizon, Nathan felt something he hadn't in years: peace. Not the fleeting kind, but a deep, lasting calm that came from knowing they had fought for and earned this life. No more battles, no more fear, just the quiet bond between a soldier and his loyal companion. Nathan leaned back, watching Thor watch the world. If Nathan and Thor's story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories of loyalty and bravery. Together, we can honor the heroes who stand by us, both human and canine. The war was over. Home was safe. And for Nathan and Thor, that was everything.